Right. So let's launch this baby. Let's do it. So today is episode number one of the Pro Talk podcast, and funnily enough, I actually named that before I turned pro. So it's just a nice little cherry on the cake now that we have the pro status to go with it. And today, guest number one, who was the first person, and I mean that with genuinely, that came to my head that I would want on this podcast as number one, is Mr. James Hollingshead. Thank you very much for coming on, bro.
Thank you, Joe. Tears are gonna start filling my eyes. That's a lovely introduction. No, it's
well,
awesome. It's awesome you're doing this, man. And like you say, you planned this podcast even before the results. So, mate, it's a sign from God if there is one. This is great. So,
yeah, I guess the idea behind it was Pro Talk to talk to the pros. To literally, as I said just before we kind of started recording, was to speak to the guys at the top of the game, not just competitors but coaches and people who are leading the way within our industry. And I just wanted to, like, I don't know, just I have a certain view on bodybuilding, and I know we're very aligned in our views and standpoints on that in terms of like training, all of the stuff behind bodybuilding is kind of some of the stuff that I guess I wanted to go into today. And obviously, we spent a good bit of time together at the gym before, back at the shed, and just I always thought, and always have done before I even kind of knew you like I do now, that you're one of the most genuine people. Like, you've had so much success, but you've never changed as a person. If anything, you've almost got even more humble. And I love to see that as such a good character trait. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It's a funny one. It's I don't know. I feel like you have to remain humble at the end of the day, Joe. Because what's most important in life is that you remain the person that you set out to be, isn't it? And you have the person you want to be planned out before you achieve the things you want to be.
Yeah.
So, the achievements, whether you win shows or turn pro, whatever, they are there, but you have to be the person you want to be all on the way up. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy because you're not living as yourself. So, yeah, I appreciate that. And that you notice that it means a lot to me, because that's ultimately the most important part. If wins come, losses come, it's fine as long as I'm I have the integrity to be myself and I don't change. So, no, that means a lot. Thank you.
I like that, man. I think you probably see it a lot in the industry nowadays, with people chasing certain goals, but almost with the wrong reasoning, the wrong backing. And then
Sure.
you see people, when it gets tough, they don't have that why, that kind of power to drive them through the hard times, because inevitably we have obviously preps and stuff from the actual physical side of things are difficult, but we have shit go on in life, personal things that go on. And obviously I know you've obviously had a lot go on in your own life as well, and you've still managed to progress physically but also mentally, and I think emotionally as well. And I think you actually share a lot of that over your sort of social media, your YouTube, your Instagram. And I think a lot of people would keep that inside and not share. And I think because you share and you bring it out, it really does bring people into your life, which is makes you vulnerable, I suppose, at times. But I think that's one of the reasons people really buy into you as a human being above a bodybuilder, if that kind of makes sense.
I think the thing is, Joe, it's like you can either seek the larger number of following, or you can seek the organic, true following. And there's ways we can all behave that would attract more people. We can do things that are viral. We can put a mask on. We can be a chameleon. That's not hard to do, but it is hard to do if that isn't in your character and if it's not what you want to be. So, like I have a very decent rapport with people, and it's very organic, because again, I'm just normally just being honest to myself and putting it out there.
Yeah.
And at least then, when you approach people and they have a conversation with you, it's never going to be something that you have to again put the mask on in the moment to try and answer in a way that isn't necessarily yourself. You have to put a character on, and I don't want to ever have to put a character on. And yeah, it does make you vulnerable. And obviously I get, the age of the internet, we get attacked for how we are, but the majority of the time you see a lot of positivity towards the person you are. And that's really just a nice feeling for anybody, to be fair. It's just to be content in yourself and know that who you are is enough. And I think it helps with bodybuilding. I think it helps when you're a professional. I think it helps when you're, even down to like performing on stage and being able to connect with your fan base, whether it's large or small. And then even when it comes down to like getting contracts with companies and stuff, if you've never been someone that isn't yourself, every time you've met these people in the past, shook hands and whatever, you just behave yourself, and when they see you for who you really are, it forms like such an organic and truthful relationship that it's always much easier to make anything of what we have because it's not created on false on being false, really, you know.
Yeah, mate, I love that. You put it so well. I think it's interesting. I think how I relate to that, how I've matured over the past decade or so. When I first started competing, I used to compete in the at the WBFF and
WBFF, yeah. I remember in
yeah.
my first gym, I remember Pink's gym. I'm pretty sure there was a poster, and even I'm sure it had you on. So it's funny because that's what I mean. We go back to the point where even if I didn't know you personally at the time, I knew of your origins. So that's why it's so cool to
Right.
see where you are now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. It's like when I go back to that time, there were moments within who I was that I wasn't being true to myself.
Hmm.
I was trying to be a persona, so to speak, so that I could fit in with the thing that I was doing
Hmm.
rather than it be the other way around. Whereas
Sure.
moving out of that sphere into the bodybuilding sphere, people don't care about that. People just care about what you look like, how you are genuinely as a person. And then as I've matured, as I'm sure you have as well, you just have that more confidence to be who you are. And that if people like me for who I am, sweet. If they don't, cool. It's cool. I
Yeah,
don't need to, I'm not even going to waste any energy on that. And people just
for
move
sure.
on in life and that's it.
For sure. For sure.
Um, I think, as I said a minute ago, you are literally one of the best bodybuilders in not just the UK but in the world, having competed at the Olympia, and I think that's a pretty fucking cool thing to say, man.
You
It
know
is,
what? We're never satisfied, are we? But yeah, no. To be fair, I've had a pretty good career so far. You know, like qualified for the Olympia on 3 occasions, done two, done the Arnold twice, been,
yeah,
and that's a positive. You know, the Arnold's invitation only, so the fact that they've said yes to me 2 times does mean a lot to me, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be there. Um, yeah, it's been a pretty good career, man. Like it's even down to the quality of bodybuilders now, and they're better than ever. Even a few weeks back competing at Detroit and getting a podium finish there for me was like
mm,
that felt like a win because I think the quality of bodybuilders from 2020 to 2025 has vastly improved because a lot of people are just more aware of
100%.
bodybuilding now. So, to come back from a show like that and be able to at least place that well, like I'm still, pretty happy with that. A lot of people,
Mate,
Joe's the funny thing you're going to find in bodybuilding, you're going to find that a lot of people that are not really ultimately understanding of it, they'll see something like anything but a win is not good enough. But as long as you know in yourself that it is
yeah,
because progress is progress, then you can
100%.
be content with that. Because you're gonna have people that like that third was amazing or whatever happens in your career, and then you're gonna have people that are like, oh man, but you got beat by 2 people, but you're in a lineup of 15 people and you've done so well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everybody there's done well to even get in the shape they're getting. So it's
yeah.
it's a funny old one, and without going too deep into it because I don't know which direction you want to go in with the conversation. Um,
I'm
again,
happy to
this is
go
why
wherever you want
this
to go, man.
again this is why it's so important to be true to yourself and to be able to recognize and acknowledge in your own self your own progressions because bodybuilding is tough because it's judgmental and it's based on the opinions of others, and unfortunately with that sometimes comes a lot of opinions that aren't really welcome, but there also comes a lot of opinions that are aligned with your own, a lot of support. Now
Mm,
my advice almost is like none of them matter. The good comments don't matter and the bad ones don't matter because if you can't just accept the good comments without accepting the
yeah,
bad. So
yeah,
really you either have to be that person that's just like I'm so focused on myself, which is the best way to be, and I lost sight of that for a little bit, but I'm bringing
mm,
it back to that. I can feel like I'm able to like kind of put things aside now, because then truly you'll keep it within your closer circle. It'll be you and Patrick, and you won't have to worry about anyone else's opinions, and you'll go so much further for that because that energy isn't lost then in all these directions, whether they're good or bad. So I'm excited for you because I know with Patrick, one of the things I found about him was his ability to keep the athlete feeling very positive about themselves. You know,
mm,
um, again, without going too deep, I grew up with the absence of a father, and I feel like the absence, unfortunately, one of the attributes that comes from that is that you start to idolize very easily because you haven't had that. So I'm fortunate in my life. I've had some people that I've idolized and that were actually they were deserving of that idealistic approach. And Patrick, I can honestly say, Patrick is one of the people that my idolize, whatever the word may be,
yeah, yeah,
how much I looked up to him. was warranted. And that's why I always know when I see him with an athlete, I know how much time he gives them and I know how much care. And that's why the guys deliver, because when you have a coach like that that makes you feel good about yourself, it's almost impossible not to be your best. And wherever your best is where your best is, you know?
Mate, I honestly, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with Patrick. I think, for example, he rang me half an hour ago today. I checked in today, and he rang me. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got coaches, Keown, you know,
Oh,
multiple Olympians and stuff. And even before I was pro, he would ring me and send me 5, 6, 7, 8 minute long voice notes and make me feel truly a part of, you know, his team and somebody that
valuable.
he genuinely, yeah, valuable. Like he,
Mm.
and you put the term really well there, almost like a an idealistic fatherly figure in a way, because he's kind of is a little bit older. He's obviously not old if he watches this. You know what I'm saying? You're old, Patrick. He's a little bit older. So what I mean by that, he's got a few more years under the belt.
He has that
Um,
maturity that makes him he has an authoritative position. You
hundred
understand he's been
percent.
on planet Earth a little bit longer. He's a little bit
Yeah,
wiser. He's had experience, and therefore, when when Patrick talks, you sit and you listen.
you listen. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I was doing a podcast with a couple of friends last night, and we were talking about this. How
yeah,
in previous coaching relationships, you know, when you get told to do something, I think, and I know you've been here before. You're like, oh, I'm going to do it, but I don't know. You know, you kind of you question it, or you think about it. Whenever Patrick says to do something, I'm like,
double
Roger
thumbs up.
that,
Yeah,
Roger that, 100%. And I said sometimes I ask him why, not because I'm questioning it, because I want to
to
know
learn, to
why.
learn, to learn. Yeah,
Exactly that. And I think from my own coaching, it's damn, I've learned so much in the time that I've worked with him, like
mm,
stuff that's really applicable to bodybuilding and stuff that you can't really learn anywhere else aside from because there aren't, you know, studies and science done on guys like us who
no,
do what we do and take what we take. Like there isn't, it's just we tried that and that worked. We tried
for
that
sure.
and that didn't work. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just I've learned so much from him and his ability to kind of react in a situation based upon what he's seeing. And
Well, that's the thing, and that's you don't unless you walk the walk. Those answers are never going to be delivered because the mathematical equation is never laid out before them. You are your own
yeah,
you are your own equation. Everything that's led you to Sunday the 15th of May has been whatever your formula is. No one else has done that. So therefore,
yeah,
you start to learn how to do the adding up of and then how to then find the answer because you walked for it yourself and having him on board to be able to deliver those answers is like it's confirmation of perhaps some of your own instincts, but also sometimes you might feel vastly different and then he actually teaches you something that's totally outside of your box that then opens your eyes to a whole new approach that you realize is actually very beneficial.
yeah.
You
And
know,
that's
that's
exactly
valuable as
what's
fuck.
happened.
Yeah.
It's so valuable, isn't it? Because I don't want to say get stuck in our ways, but we find things that work and we think that's, oh, that works. I'll keep doing that. But maybe there's a way of adjusting it slightly. We don't have to change the whole thing. But, and I mean, that kind of takes me on to the next thing I wanted to speak about was obviously, you know, obviously you're with Stefan now.
Mhm.
Um, how are you finding it? How long's it been now?
About, I mean, last year after the answer, it's been about a year.
Wow,
Um,
has it been that long? That's
yeah,
crazy.
because
Time flies,
obviously
man.
me and so after I was going to do Detroit last year after I did the Arnold UK, and Stefan took over at that point, and we tried to get my body to kind of respond and look a certain way at the time, but we just weren't really ultimately happy of how it was.
Mm-hmm.
Although looking back at those pictures, I think I would have done very well in Detroit. It probably would have been top three again, uh,
Yeah, of
which would have been decent. But obviously we play to win a lot of the time. Um,
course.
and it's been
And that's
good, but we
hindsight as well, isn't it?
yeah, it's been good, but we got a lot to learn. I think, obviously we did the Arnold Classic and it wasn't what any of us wanted in regards to placing and look. And again, that just comes to inexperience of time, not having enough time to figure each other out, him figuring out
Sure.
my body in a prep situation. Because, you kind of, off season, it's kind of easy to get a hold on somebody.
Of
Calories
course.
go up, he's getting more muscular, you can kind of see it. We made some, I think, calls during the prep that maybe just derailed potential to be better along the way.
Hmm.
Not because of stupidity or anything, just because of typically speaking, those methods would work. But
Yeah,
again, everyone's different. And
exactly.
I know my body in history is my body is someone that people do find hard to read. I don't photograph well, so when I'm like, if someone takes a picture of me and sends it, if I send a picture to a coach, it doesn't translate to how my physique is
Mhm.
in person.
Well,
Mostly,
I can attest to that because
yeah,
obviously training with you in the gym, when I see you in the, obviously you look phenomenal in pictures, but in person, bro, it's another thing. It's
I
fucking
think it's
3D,
proportions,
man.
isn't it? It's proportions, like
Yeah.
I got a big head, so shoulders are never looking that wide.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I have density, but density doesn't show in a 2D image.
No, no.
So I think a lot of coaches find it hard, not because of their own issue, but because the way in which we prep is over a lot over the phone. So I tried to do video more because video is a little bit better, but even
Yeah.
then it's still hard to tell. And I think
Mm.
this is a situation where me and Patrick um, kind of in 2021 when we did the Olympia again, pictures kind of messed us up. It was no one's fault, but they kind of
Mm.
led us to believe we were somewhere that we weren't.
I think you were more
Um,
ahead than you were from a fat loss perspective.
I don't know,
Or,
maybe, and then maybe we rushed at the end, and when we rushed at the end, we actually pulled it
mm,
down too much. Because if you have to bully weight off right at the end of a prep, it's never a good thing. The muscle starts to dissipate because
yeah.
ultimately you are in a deficit, but you're also just being extra aggressive. And I don't think there's ever a time in a prep when you should be extra aggressive, especially not at the end.
Mm,
You can do these
mhm.
fast. You can start a prep quite fast. I've seen people do that with a lot of success, where you
Yeah.
get like a initial fat loss phase where you go quite hard and aggressive, but you have to create more balance as you get closer to a show. And
True.
I think that's just what happened, and it's no one's fault. But at the time, I made a bad call, and I was stupid, and I kind of was like, oh god, you know what, fucking hell, shit. As bodybuilders do, we're on a lot of we're on a lot of anabolics that have a very strong hold on your emotions at the time, if any, if you have any emotions.
Mm,
And the problem is the absence of the positive emotions make you make decisions that aren't necessarily the best.
irrational. Yeah.
Yeah, irrational. So I
Yeah.
think just at
I've
the
been
time
there.
I was a bit too irrational. And again, I it's good that you're prepped by Patrick, and I'm glad because I love Patrick, and I had the opportunity to catch up with Patrick and whatnot in Ohio, and it was lovely to see him.
Nice.
Ben surprised me by bringing him to my room, and I was like, "Fucking hell, Pat!" Like,
Oh,
to
no
me,
way.
yeah, to me, he's Uncle Pat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I love him, and I would give him any time in the world if he ever wanted it. And even now, like I say, on the odd day, like yourself, I still send him a message here and there just to check in
Yeah.
on him and see how things are. Because I revealed to him that we're having a baby. I remember when he was one of the first people I actually messaged. That's the weird thing. Like he's one of them
Wow.
guys.
Yeah.
Like I felt
Yeah.
like I could tell him before other people. So
Yeah. Because you
um,
had that connection.
for sure, and we spoke about family life and all that kind of all the deep
Mm,
stuff, and
hmm.
sat down and had really great conversations. So he was obviously there during some times for me that were very difficult, and you know, it's so funny because the difficult times, and he was there, and we were just like a crazy team. Like I get excited talking about it because I remember like we went into like lockdown, and I remember my training during lockdown. I was like literally on my own with one other guy, my friend Steve, who was the manager at Kings, because
Yeah.
obviously the gyms were shut. So I was just doing my thing, and he was in there as well. Um, and shit, man, like shit just got wild because Patrick never let me slip. He made me take all that. He made me take all that negative energy and put it in something positive. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
thank him. I can't thank him enough for that, dude. I came away with 2 pro wins that year because of him. And I'm pretty sure your future's going to be just as bright because, like I say, I think he's a dime in a dozen. Like you're not going to find many people like Pat. And I think even Ian could attest to that because
Mm,
Ian kind of went back to Jansen for his last show or the one before. I can't remember. And then I remember Ian being pretty clear that he kind of realized how good Pat is after that. I can't
mm.
remember where I saw the conversation, but I know for a fact that was something that was spoken about. So yeah, this podcast is kind of just celebrating Pat, really.
There we go. Just
Yeah,
jumping in.
he'll love it.
I
He'll love
love
it because
that.
he deserves it. He deserves
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. 100%. I
But
mean,
things with sorry, I was going to say things with Stefan are good, but there's a lot of learning still to happen.
yeah.
Um,
I
so
think the bigger you are as a bodybuilder, I think someone like you, with the amount of mass you have, it takes longer to understand what to do. Like you said, not so much on the way up, but definitely on the way down because things can change so quickly. Fluid,
yeah,
sodium, all that kind of stuff. And if you don't get it right, you get it very wrong, as we know.
like I said, the margin for error. I remember I used to help
Yeah,
prep. I used to help prep quite a few guys. And one of my friends, like Louis Moylan, he's
yeah,
a
yeah.
fellow athlete on
Big
your
load,
team, so he's
big
a
load.
part of JP's team. I remember prepping him for the British, and he got the win. And I just felt like with someone of his weight, like even if they were slightly off or underweight or flat, because the musculature wasn't as exaggerated, on the
Hmm.
frame, no one really noticed. Whereas when you're like heavily muscled, if if you're taller like myself and yourself, you're
Mm.
5'11", 6 foot, something like that, you take away a little bit of that fullness, man, and it really, really changes the silhouette. And if that silhouette's not
Yeah.
fallen as a super heavyweight kind of bodybuilder, unfortunately, that really, really hurts you. Um,
100%. And I've been there as well, as
you
I
know,
know you have as well. It's a
yeah,
horrible, horrible feeling because you know before stage, like it could be a few days out, you're almost like, oh fucking hell, I already know. Like
yeah,
it's
you already
already,
know.
I already know it's not going to be there. We haven't got enough time
You know
to
that the
get it
food you
right.
put in is just not going to go. It can't
Yeah,
be.
yeah,
That's, if anything, minimal. It's a 2 to 3 week job, even if it's a
yeah,
job. It might not,
yeah,
by then you probably can't get it back because you have lost muscle. And that's the
yeah, yeah,
sad
yeah.
part. That's what happened with the Arnold, unfortunately, is
Mm,
somewhere along the line, my muscle started to deteriorate for a couple of weeks. And a couple of weeks of that happening consistently,
mm.
that changes the outcome.
Yeah, I think that thing when, like you say, potentially maybe you've driven too hard, or I'm not sure what it was in your specific situation, but
Mm, mm.
when you get that, it's not tiredness, but actual physical fatigue with the body, and then when you try and load it, it's just not like a sponge. It's not responsive, and
It doesn't, yeah.
anything you do is just it's just not filling you up, and then you've got to push too hard, and then you can spill, or
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just
again,
it's
if
not.
it's like we said, we're bullying fat off in the last minute or bullying food
Yeah,
in. Either way, it's not
yeah,
going to work well. And the only real difference is, and I'll be honest, is that, obviously when I did the 2022 season, we had a victory in Italy and we had a good placing in the Arnold UK. And that was me and
mm,
Jordan bouncing ideas off each other. So
I
credit where
remember.
credit's due. We refed a lot on shit food. Like if you were to ask
Mm,
him the food that I was eating in that, mate, 5 p.m. every fourth to fifth day, I mean, from 5 p.m. onwards, 2 to 3 takeaways,
love
guaranteed. And
that.
again, I'll say this. If you look at the pictures of me in the Arnold US 2024, I'm not my most shredded, but the level of fullness and freshness in my body and being able to pose confidently,
Mm,
next level. So
it was a nice look, man.
it's just finding that balance, man. Ultimately, you want to have that freshness, but you also want to have the condition that you had in this last show. So
Yeah.
marrying the two together is where it becomes a bit more of a difficult game. But it's obviously possible because we've seen people do it. But I do think the big guys do find it harder because, like, we look at someone like Samson, he's Mr. Olympia. We haven't seen him in your condition yet, and that's nothing against him because he's got such a perfect physique that I believe it doesn't matter too much. But
Mm.
it just shows how hard it is to do. It's not
Yeah,
easy.
and it's the thing as well, isn't it? It's like if he did get to that, would he then
Take away some
still
of the
have
pop.
that? Yeah, it's like, well, he's pretty fucking good clearly because he's
Mm,
Mr. Olympia, so it's kind of working. But I guess then it's like right now we're working with the finest of margins. How do we get 0.5% better? Can I
yeah.
bring it, 1% body fat lower or whatever it may be? So like from the Arnolds, then obviously the look in Detroit was completely different. What talk to us about that in terms of like I know I've heard a few bits and bobs, I've seen you talk about it, but tell us what you did in between then. What was like the body weight difference? What did you get up to?
So we sat down after the Arnold, and the first thing Steph was like, "We need more size." And
Mm.
I knew deep down that I could fill out more than I was. So I literally got home and I said, Stefan, I'm not trying to take over. I said, like, I want you to be my coach. So everything I say and do, I want to put through you and you to confirm.
Yeah,
So I said, I'm going to write a nutrition plan and I'm going to send it to you and I'm going to see what you think. And I literally put together a plan that had way more density to it, like in regards to like red meat, more
yeah.
carbohydrate, more fats, basically just more calories in general.
Hmm.
I sent it over, and Stefan's a great guy. He's like, he wants to learn my body. So he's
Hmm.
obviously like, okay, let's go with it and let's see where this goes. Let's give it a
Hmm.
go. And I basically just sat on that diet for the whole 4 weeks in between with cheat meals as and when I needed, because there's still days where I was like, I'm flattening off. So I
Yeah,
would basically go and have breakfast in like a breakfast place in America or go and have a Nando's. And I was just doing that sporadically as and when I had that feeling I had the previous year with
yeah,
JP when I knew that when I knew that someone like Jordan would say you need to eat.
yeah.
And
You're
you
like,
know,
right, let's
yeah,
go.
it'd be simple
Yeah.
as me. I'm walking down the street like in Cheltenham or whatever, and I can feel that my energy and my legs feel heavy. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, that's enough. That's a sign. So I
Yeah,
would eat, and that was all I did. And then obviously I tried to load pretty hard into the last week, and it's not ideal. Like anyone that's had to load that aggressively, it's just not sustainable. And the reason I actually didn't choose to do Pits and New York, because I originally wanted to. I was
yeah.
originally
No, I saw your name out there for the
Dude,
pits,
I
man.
was in for Pits and I spoke to the Manions and that, and it's all been cool because I've got obviously stuff going on with the baby on the way and whatnot.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
just been a
they've
lot
allowed
going
it.
on. So thank you to them. Big shout out to them for their
Nice.
understanding nature. And it's going to be a hell of a show. And I am gutted I'm not there. It's going to be the best show of the
Mm,
year. But you know, the amount you have to eat like that, it feels so wrong for someone who's a hardcore bodybuilder
mm.
that my brain just couldn't fathom doing that for a few more weeks because I just didn't feel like it could be sustainable.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
if I'm eating like there's only so long I can do this for before my head
Mm,
goes. Which is opposite
yeah.
to like it's the opposite to like extreme dieting like the other way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's weird that, isn't it? Because like you
Yeah.
said, when you're a proper bodybuilder like us, when we know nutrient profiles and we eat meals at this time and that time. So to think, oh, I'm eating shit, like
That
it's not
spontaneity,
the done thing. Yeah.
dude, that spontaneity didn't sit with my system right because
Mm,
I'm like you, I'm a bodybuilder. I calculate and I am responsive. I can respond to what's needed, but when the
yeah.
response is the answer that just feels wrong over and over again, there's only so long that your mentality can go, this is okay. Because it was just weird, dude. And again, like I say, the look was pretty good. I had a lot more positive feedback from the judges. They were like, "This is James." They first thing they said to me, "This is James," because you
Yeah,
weren't,
mate,
you weren't, you weren't.
when you came out and I saw it on the stream, I was like,
Uh,
I literally was like, holy fuck, like
uh,
what the fuck? It was a what the fuck moment because
I
I
was,
think because of the vast difference between
yeah.
the Arnolds and that Detroit look in that short space of time was like, wow.
Oh, dude, I
What
just had to
what
feed up so much.
what was the weight difference?
So, bro, I was probably only like 260 on stage in the Arnold.
Yeah,
I was 280 the night before of the Detroit, and then
yeah,
I popped what half a diazide, like being real with
yeah,
you.
yeah,
That's it,
yeah, yeah.
literally the night before, and so I probably lost what 4 or 5 pounds maybe. So let's say
Nice.
275, maybe even a little bit heavier. I don't know, because I
Yeah,
was still eating in the night. So I'd go to bed, and if I woke up, I said to myself, "Don't be afraid to put more carbs in because you need it." So I would just
nice.
smash like 3 bagels, 4 bagels in the night of honey. Like,
I love this, bro. This is what people need to hear because, like, there's like you're top of the game and like you're doing stuff that's outside the box. Don't be
oh,
afraid to do shit that you think works for you. You don't have to follow there are no rules,
there's
right?
no rules, and it's obviously based on history and what have you felt in the past, and that's why
Mm,
experience trumps everything. Because
sure.
those calls I was making in the moment, I couldn't. At 4 in the morning in Detroit, I couldn't message Stefan saying I'm gonna eat more bagels.
No.
I had to make that call myself. So I'm waking up and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, more bagels. Do I need more fluid? I'm like, literally. That's why it's like, whoa, well, I'm trying to make call it. Do I take an anadrol? To help with
Do
the
I pop some
fullness.
more diazide?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, do I need more diazine? And
Yeah, yeah.
funnily enough, I think the look would have been slightly better even if I had like quarter of a diazide in the morning of the show because I
Mm,
could have been a
mm,
little bit drier because I started to dry out as I was posing, and
yeah.
especially by the end of the night because the judges came to speak to me and Sass after the show, and the feedback to Sass was a little bit more width, shoulder width.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then the feedback to me from Bill was, if you finish the show how you started the show, you're pushing for the win.
Right,
You
yeah,
start
yeah,
the show
yeah.
so you
Fucking hell.
finish the show because you were so much
Yeah, yeah,
drier.
yeah. Yeah, because
So
you're posing, you just
it just
dried
comes
off
out
even
because
more.
I find it
Yeah.
very hard to get on stage perfect. It's
Mm.
always for me. It's like give me 6 rounds of posing, like
You
hard
pose
posing.
into it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you're the
You,
same.
you,
You seem to be pretty polished from the start.
yeah. Well, I'm almost the opposite. I come out right and then I can
And you
fade.
go, oh, so that's
Yeah.
again, these are the calls you have to make. Is it better to come out fully bursting at the prejudging, or do
Mm,
you come in perfect at prejudging so you set the example and then hope that in the final show they're like, you know what, he's already
mm.
won? Because it is hard. It's hard to maintain a look over a period of a day, especially when there's a
It,
split in the middle of the day and it's hours apart.
yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, even for this one, I knew because obviously I was going to be up against Ben and Josh, and I know you're good pals of Ben
Hmm.
in the overall. Sorry, in the supers, and I was like, well, I need to win that to get to the overall, so I have to be fucking nails
Got to be nails
for
because
this.
they're not
Yeah.
going to be. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly that. And obviously, like for me, I needed to be the look was always needed to be as sharp as it possibly could because that's my calling
for
card,
sure, for
so to
sure.
speak. It's not the kind of the density card, which is if I'd have played that card, I'd have got beat by Ben because
I think
he's
the thing is, Joe,
denser.
as well, in the amateur scene, and I know this myself because I beat Samson at the British Championships,
Mm,
and it was because I was inside out.
mm,
So always my advice to anyone in the amateur scene that's trying to win their pro card or win a show is a heavy focus on condition. I think the only time that the mass starts to really be the main objective is once you're posing in front of the guys like Steve Weinberger and Tyler,
yeah,
because they love bodybuilding for being big. And
yeah, yeah.
obviously condition is so important as well, but I've noticed myself, my placings are better, even if I'm slightly less conditioned but fuller.
Yeah.
Obviously, to win the big shows like the Arnold or the Mr. Olympia, you need a combination of both. You need to come in
Mm.
huge and sharp, because you'll notice it shows as a pattern that top six at the Olympia are normally the most muscular guys straight away,
Yeah.
and then it's condition.
Because they've then got more room to actually come down, so they
Yeah.
still look big when they're peeled.
Well, and this is why it's mad, because you're always going to have people saying you've got enough muscle. There's no need to try and get more muscle. Just get sharper. If you aim for getting sharper and you're a super heavyweight open bodybuilder, and when you are at your sharpest, you're too small in the lineup, no, that
Mm.
means you need more muscle,
Yeah.
because you need muscle to lose. And that's something I was always told by Flex,
Yeah.
anybody like that. You actually need to be over muscular in your off season, to the point where when you diet for a show and you do lose some of that tissue in those last few weeks, you still haven't sacrificed enough to take you out of the showing. You still
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
competitive, and because everybody loses a bit of muscle in prep, whether it's Derek, Bonac, all of them.
Hmm.
So you have to think at their peak how much muscle they actually had, and that's why it's so
Yeah.
crazy. So right now I got people like will be like, James, you don't need more muscle because you can get to 300 pound. Truth be told, 300 pound doesn't carry enough muscle on my frame. That's just the way it is.
That's
I
crazy.
would have to be 320, because if
Yeah.
I'm 5'11" and Ronnie Coleman was 320, then I'm not being funny. I'd have to
Yeah.
be around that mark. So me and you have got ample room to put muscle on. It's just getting there is going to be a difficult task, but it's obviously a
Oh
challenge
yeah.
you're excited about. Like, how
I've
you
got a
feeling?
touch.
How you feeling about that?
I was going to say I've got a touch longer way to go than you. I mean, I just having that conversation with Patrick before this. I said to him, the longest. So I've been competing since
It was 8 months,
2014.
isn't it? The longest you've had, you said.
8 months is the longest I've had. Yeah. So this time, of course, I'm jumping into Pittsburgh, as we said,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
for fun, and because it was only 3 weeks away, I'm in shape.
yeah.
Let's go.
Little
But
holiday after as well.
yeah, a little holiday would be lovely. And I treat Nancy, and she's looking forward to it. So, and then yeah, and then we're going to go into a proper off season. It's funny because we were actually just talking about how he's like, right, I know your body now, Joe. He's like, we can't do long, continuous, sustained periods of time eating lots of food. He was like, your body just doesn't like it. Your appetite goes. He was
Yeah,
exactly that. He was like, we'll do 6 to 8 weeks heavy push, harder than what we've done before.
yeah.
But you mentally know at the end of that, we're going to do 2 or 3 weeks of cleaning up and putting it back and
Reserve. Yeah,
resetting and then go again.
yeah,
And he was like, I think that's going to be a much more efficient way to pack muscle on. And then we do that for however long it's
yeah,
required.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
next time I go out, obviously I want to be. I still don't expect to be going out winning shows or anything like that. Absolutely not. But first time I go out as a proper pro debut, I'll be like, well, I'd like to firstly choose a show that not a Pittsburgh.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Go and do like some European shows, maybe Spain, Milan, something like that.
Yeah.
And try and if I can place somewhat respectively, that I'd be happy with that as a first season.
I always say, first season, if you're an ambitious bodybuilder, try and finish the season with a top six.
That would be amazing.
Like,
That would
because like,
be
listen, if there's
amazing.
15 people in a show and you get a top six, I've heard yourself say you just want to you want to be able to just be able to beat some people. If you
Mm,
can get into that pro league and beat some pros, you're doing a fantastic job. That's why, again,
yeah,
it makes me die when people are like, yeah, but you came second to last. Like, even if you come last, it's still cool. But if you beat one pro, that's a pro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's
True.
like, ask how many pros have any of you guys beaten?
Yeah, true,
So just
true,
leave
true,
us
true.
alone and let us do our fucking job, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
because these pros are working so hard. So if
Mm,
you can, as Nathan would say, take a few scalps along the way, and
mm,
you're doing a great job. Like, top six is never unrealistic as well. I think that's a really realistic way to look at it, because, let's say you do 4 shows or three or four shows in your first season, which is probably a wise amount to do.
mm,
The chances of getting top six in one of them is pretty high. So it's not
mm.
it's not a stupid goal. Like, I had the same kind of thing in my first year as a pro. I had some really bad placings in the first 3 shows, and then my last show of the year was the Prague, or second to last show, and I got top six, and I was happy with that because,
Yeah, buzzing.
dude,
What way
because
to finish?
yeah, you come away with that. Some shows, it depends on the show, but some shows have top six on stage, some have five.
Yeah,
Prague had six, so I got in that picture with all the boys. I was
yeah,
like,
nice.
that's a memory. It was Nathan Diasher in second, Rody Winkler in
Yeah.
first. I'm against some of the best in the world. I was more than happy with that.
Oh, the one you posted on your Instagram the
Yeah,
other
that
day,
was
wasn't it? Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
for example,
yeah.
show like that, you do that in your first season, man. I think that's a win. And if you do more, again, bonus, man. Stay ambitious.
Mm,
There's no reason why you
mm.
can't do more.
Yeah, I think it's. I tell you what, bro. When we were driving home from the pro qualifier when I won my pro card 2 weeks ago, and my girlfriend Nancy said to me, how do you feel? And I said, do you know what? I feel free. That's how I feel. I feel fucking
Definitely
free.
never have to do this bit again.
Yeah, honestly, man, I'll be honest. I started to enjoy it less because of the pressure that I was putting on myself and that I felt from social media and sponsors, not directly, but I
No, but
knew it
you
was,
create that yourself.
yeah, like I want to do this for them and for the people watching and for the, the people that follow you and buy into your journey. And each time, almost, it's kind of like, I don't want to say embarrassing, but you feel like you're a letdown, like to other
I know that
people, to
feeling.
myself. Yeah,
Share that, bro.
it's a horrible feeling. So to mate, when they called my number, man, fuck, I was like, I mean, there's a picture on stage where Ian's holding my hand up, and I just looked to the sky and had to like bite my lip, and I was like,
Yeah,
fucking yeah,
yeah.
yes.
Well,
So yeah, that is an incredible feeling, and I think for me now, I can enjoy bodybuilding again because I
you,
don't have any pressure.
you
I
know
can
what's
just enjoy it.
really good as well? When someone turns pro and they were against good people.
Yeah,
No one can say shit. You're against Josh,
Dougal.
so and the likes of Ben, like
Mm,
to win an overall against the guys that also in the overall as well. You already
yeah,
that just shows the standard you're at is already a really good standard. Because
no,
there
I
are some,
appreciate that, man.
unfortunately, there are some pro qualifiers that are absolutely dead, and it is
Mm.
sometimes people aren't ready to be pro yet.
Yeah, I
And
always made it a point to not do that. Like
yeah, I think it's good.
I went to the biggest ones, Spain, Portugal,
Yeah,
Sweden, all these shows, and I didn't want to be one of those guys that went to fucking Thailand or whatever.
again,
No
nothing against those
disrespect,
people,
obviously. Yeah, no
but
disrespect, obviously.
it's
But
like if you want to create confidence in yourself, you have to have beat some good people.
mm,
Because if you've beat no one to get your pro card, you're going to be no more confident than when you was an amateur.
yeah,
So you just beat
that's
you beat two really fucking good bodybuilders in your class. Like they will be pros. There's no
100%,
like
no doubt
them
about it.
like absolutely, absolutely. So to be able to pip them off, it's a big feat, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. It really does mean a lot coming from yourself. And then it's like I said, the pressure valve has just been
Oh, let
released, and I
off
can
so much,
just,
yeah.
oh man, I can just, I'm really looking forward to off season now because there was honestly like there was times when I questioned in my head like, how much longer can I keep banging my head against this wall?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because also I know I almost from a pro qualifier standpoint have to keep competing and I have to keep coming back. It's like, well, now I don't. I
Yeah.
obviously want to compete,
You
but I
choose
need
what you
to,
want to do now.
yeah, I can go and make that. I need to probably go and put on 15, 20 pounds of stage weight, to be honest.
That's the fun
So,
part, though, bro.
yeah,
Well,
but I have
it's
the
fun. It's
time.
fun till it gets hard, but
Yeah,
we
yeah,
still
yeah,
do it. But you said
yeah,
about knocking your head against the wall. It's that whole, like the picture of the guy digging through the underground and then turns
yeah.
back
He's
and
the
there's that
so
little
close.
thin
Yeah,
crisp of
yeah,
earth left, and then all
yeah.
the jewels are behind it. It's
That's
that, man,
powerful.
and that's always been the same for me in bodybuilding, bro. Like when my candle can be like this dim, but
Yeah.
it's always that is still enough to ignite a fire. And
Oh man.
as long as there's something very small still burning in there, yeah, there might be times of respite and you ease off and you question everything. But questioning something isn't quitting.
But you know what? I just got like almost goosebumps to be saying that then because it resonates so fucking hard. Like so fucking hard. Like there was times, and I know you've had it before, where you want to quit or or it runs through your mind, or, life after bodybuilding. So maybe I start thinking about something else. But then something just brings you back in, and you're like, nah, I got this. And you keep going. And then because you kept going, you got the thing
I
that
think
you were
that's what
working for.
I think that's what makes champions, man.
Perseverance.
Champions, even when they don't like it's so ordinary thing to say, but even when they don't feel like doing something, they're still drawn to it because
That's so true, isn't it?
they hate unfinished business, and that hating of
Yeah.
unfinished business is discipline.
Mate, that's exactly what it was. It was
Yeah.
unfinished business. And it's been unfinished business for 4 or 5 years. And that's just crazy. So what's the goals for you now then, big man?
Oh, I got to
What's
put
the
on some
next few
muscle,
years?
bro. I got to put on some muscle. Like I'm determined to deliver James as James can be.
Mm,
And again, I know that probably 50% of people that hear me probably think it's not doable, and that's cool. You'll always get a comment, and you're going to see this yourself now. You're even in more spotlight. People are
yeah.
going to say, "Oh, what's the point if you're already redlining your body and that?" And You know, the
Mm.
funny thing is, I replied to someone on YouTube the other day. I was like, "Yeah, that'd be true if I did redline my body, but if you have a look at
Yeah.
my blood work and my
Mm.
health, then I'm not actually redlined." So,
Yeah. That's the
um,
thing, isn't it? People say that all the time,
they
like,
assume to
oh,
turn pro you've had to redline.
yeah, 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 100%.
Well,
And
you
this has been the nicest prep I've ever had.
you can see the physiques that are redline, guys.
Mm.
There's a lot of issues going on. And if you look
Mm.
at someone like Joe or myself, there's not much going on that's showing signs of degradation. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm a bald bastard, yeah. But that happened years ago. And that's genetic. Joe got the cheat up on
Yeah.
me because he went and got his hair done, all right.
yeah,
So
I got
so so
mine got paid for, so
so he sorted that out. But yeah, the goal really for me, I think I'm gonna right now I'm in like a health phase. So just down to TRT, so 100, well, not TRT, slightly above. It's like 125 tests twice a week.
nice.
Just growth hormone, nothing else.
Yeah,
Two IUs on a training day and a rest day. Like literally very, very mild. And I'm just gonna see what food does for me right now. So my calories are pretty
nice,
high. And my training is hard, but it's every other day, and I'm not actually going past failure. So right now, everything's very
nice.
stripped back, to be honest, Joe. And I'll do that for the foreseeable until I feel really ready to kind of push forward even more because I'm getting good response out of this. So my
Nice.
weight's already 294.
Fuck,
Like
you're 294.
already, like I haven't
That's
even
nuts.
not even fucking trying. Like
Yeah,
my set point is normally about this weight. So it's got
yeah,
back there without the assistance of, high level of androgens and
yeah.
anabolics, which you know, the problem is at this weight, no matter who you are, you still have to be very cautious of the health aspects because blood
Mm.
pressure and whatnot, even if you're doing this on not a lot of gear, you still get elevated
Yeah,
blood pressure stuff. So right now,
yeah.
that's why I'm doing this health phase to try and moderate and understand, see patterns in, the health side of things, get bloods done and just see if there's things I
Mm.
can mitigate. So for right now, my main objective is just to try and bring the blood pressure down a little bit more because it's slightly high. Um, because I want to put myself in a good position, obviously, for when I cycle next.
Mm.
And then in regards to shows, dude, obviously they've announced the UK Arnold's back next year, so that'd be a good shout.
Yeah. When is that?
Um,
Back end of the year?
I don't know when that is yet.
Oh no,
People,
it's March, isn't it? Isn't it March?
I think it's March. So if
Early.
it's March, you know what I would do? I would go to Detroit again, and I want to win
Ah, mate, that would be
because I like
fucking
Detroit.
sick.
And
Yeah, it looks like such a good show. Field's done a good job. Field and the boys.
dude, honestly, when obviously not next year, but the year after me, man, you should definitely
I,
put that
I
on
thought about,
your agenda.
yeah, 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 because I'll be compete. I think I'd be good to go then.
That I think so. Yeah,
Early
yeah.
20s, early 27. That would
And
have
the
been
thing
a
is,
good.
the show's growing every year, so it's going to be in a really good spot by then.
Mm,
So yeah, I would like to do that, and I kind of like that time of year dieting. It seems, don't know why. There's no difference
I
really,
do.
but
I do as well. From like January onwards,
yeah,
because
yeah.
nothing fuckle goes on in that time of the year. I like the cold, dark mornings. I like getting out and doing cardio when it's dark and no one's up. You know what I mean? There, where
Well,
you have that tranquil moment to yourself for a couple of hours.
yeah, and you're also
I
in good
love that.
shape. You're in good shape when it starts to get like brighter again, which is a nice time of
Yeah,
year not
yeah,
to be.
yeah, yeah,
I'd
yeah,
rather be, I'd rather get fat towards the end of the year,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
bring it in after. But
yeah,
that's my goal. I know there's still shows I can win.
yeah,
And I will. I just got to be patient, and I've got to do what's black and white needed to be done. And it's so obvious to me that
yeah.
it's muscle, and I'm always going to get picked apart for some things like abdominal development, blah blah blah. I know that, and I know there's always going to be weaknesses, but there's weaknesses on everyone's physique, man.
And that's what I
And
was about to say. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, and while that may be one of your drawbacks, you have some incredible things that take you forward, like your
for sure,
density, your
for sure.
conditioning, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like if someone was to have 100 of everything, they'd be the perfect
Oh,
bodybuilder. And it
exactly. And we've
doesn't.
never seen that.
There's
Not even Ronnie was
no,
that.
no. There's always a drawback, but at the end of the day, if you can make all of your good points as good as they can be, that thing that isn't as good isn't really. It's
my,
not really
my my head
noticeable.
Joe's like make all the good points go from a 7 to a fucking 10.
Yeah, straight up, man.
And then the points that I lose on the middle, oh
Yeah,
well,
fuck it. Yeah, it's a minor, isn't it?
I'm still training and everything right now. I still train my abs hard.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just some things are genetic. I don't care what it says. Like if you look at myself and you, like I don't think me and you would have to train calves and they'd probably still stay there. Let's be honest.
yeah,
Like your calves
yeah,
are
yeah,
wild. Mine are okay, but I don't have to really train them, even though I do.
yeah, yeah.
And it's the same with certain body parts. So, you win some, you lose some. We've all got kind of strengths and weaknesses, but bodybuilding is
Mm-hmm.
not just about one thing, it's about the entire package. And if you can
Mm-hmm.
improve all your strong attributes, like you say, to a point where they stand out so much and they almost draw away from the problems, that's the art of bodybuilding, isn't it? You try to improve what you can. So,
100%. So
yeah,
by proxy of the goal of winning a show next year, obviously the secondary or main goal to that is try and qualify for the Olympia again.
For sure, man. And you know, I'd
Yeah.
like to finish my career, not saying next year's the last year, but I'd like
Mhm.
to finish my career with as high as third place at an Arnold. I'd like to win the Arnold, ideally, actually. If I'm
Mm.
honest, I want to fucking win the Arnold. I
That
want to
would be
win at
insane.
least win the Arnold UK. And then
Speak it into existence, man. I do believe in that shit. I really do.
yeah, I think
I
so as
really
well. I
do.
think so. I think so. And I think as long as you give yourself enough ample time to be realistic, it's possible.
Hmm.
And then obviously at the Olympia, man, just do better than I have because you know
Yeah.
that's all you can do. And if I could be up there in a spot in that top 10, I'd be well happy. Um, Again, I'd be happier if I'm higher, but there'll still
Of
be a
course.
happiness, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
It's just about.
people take it as sometimes I'm too soft and I am a defeatist because I don't say I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Guys, we're all just different in our character.
Mm.
Inside, deep down, when I'm training that course, man, I'm like biting fuckers' heads off. Like I'm,
Mate, I've seen you train, bro. You're a
yeah,
savage.
I'm
Savage.
not nice inside.
Mm.
I'm a well-mannered man and I care about how people see me. But
Sure.
obviously, I'm going to sleep at night and I'm dreaming of decapitating everybody on that day. I'm taking you all out. So
Man's taking scalps for real,
yeah,
like
literally, it's
Cowboys and Indian style.
yeah, for sure. So and I don't really, I think you can be a relatively class act and speak well, but still have the desire to win without being too egotistical.
100%. I
Because
think
listen,
as
if I again, Joe, sorry, last point. If I haven't
right.
done it yet, I can't really talk like I have. So what's the point? You know?
Oh, mate, that resonates again. When I did the podcast with Jay on his Beautiful Struggle podcast, he said to me, "How do you feel about everyone saying you deserve the pro card?" I was like, "I don't deserve shit because I haven't fucking got it." Do you know what I mean? Like, I
I
don't
hear that.
deserve it. If I'd only deserve it if I got it. And I
Yeah.
said there, I was like, when I finally get it, then I
Then
can say
I'll
I deserve it. So right
exactly.
now I can be like, I deserve that shit.
Fuck yeah, I deserve it. Yeah, exactly. So that's
Yeah,
the same thing for me. That's how I feel. I gotta you just gotta get the job done.
that's
You
it.
know?
Proper fucking training, man. And that's the one of the thing I guess we can kind of round up shortly is like you're, as I said at the start, you're a proper fucking people's bodybuilder. Like you've always just done the do. You'd hard training. You just I don't know. You just do everything how I love to see it being done,
For
and I'd
sure.
like to almost like following your footsteps, so to speak. As a lot of younger guys looking up to yourself as well with the way that you do things and the way you carry yourself, and I think you're really respected for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's you know, we are in a time where there is a massive emphasis on the opposite, which you'll notice a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And I get it, and I don't blame the current generation at all for their way of doing anything because you just go with whatever's present at the time you're in. Same with music taste, you know. I'm always going to listen to stuff from 2003 because it's during my most influential stage of my life.
Yeah,
50
yeah,
Cent comes out, I put it on, you know. We
yeah.
only know what we know, and I've got nothing against the way that people train now, but I do wish I I noticed that the way that I am and some of the others are that it just isn't considered cool enough now to be that way.
Mm,
Um, so it's sometimes a little bit sad to see that people do everything but what you're doing. Because I'm, you know,
yeah,
I put out what I do and I show what I do, mostly to try to show that things don't have to be super complicated and that you can enjoy bodybuilding and that you don't have to be overwhelmed by every single one of the minutiae, you know, all the kind of intimate details. They don't have to rule your life because for some people that does make bodybuilding too much. And I've experienced that in the past when I've tried to be a little
yeah.
bit more that way. It actually means it makes you kind of go home and it doesn't leave your brain.
Not
It's still
fun anymore.
yeah, it's not fun anymore. And part
Yeah,
of the fun of bodybuilding for me, especially, and probably for you as well, is that when we first started doing it, a lot of it was just a way to exert.
yeah,
And I feel like sometimes when you get too specific, you lose the ability to exert because you're working within lines.
yeah. It's very true.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you
Like
don't. Yeah, you
I
don't
know,
go
for
in and just let
example,
loose anymore.
yeah, and I know with Patrick's training, one thing that's really good about it is that you can fucking exert.
You have to. Yeah.
You're almost driven to the point where everything's so maximal,
Mm,
and you know people are so concerned now with like rep form and
yeah.
and fatigue and stuff like that, but honestly, the best sets and the best workouts of my life is when I go into the failure and some of the reps at the end look like shit and I beat the shit out of myself and I
Mm,
don't consider rest. I don't consider fatigue. And I just make sure that I eat the meals and I sleep and I don't overthink it. I'm not trying to think. I'm not thinking from like an Excel spreadsheet point of view, And I understand, listen,
100%.
coaching is coaching is a great thing. We have a lot of good coaches like yourself now. And I understand, putting out an Excel spreadsheet or Google Docs, it's important to educate people to know how to follow and have discipline, structure, and all that. And I think that's great. But I just think don't let it limit you. Like just because it says 12, don't mean you can't do 13.
Oh, mate, I say this to clients all
You
the
know what I
time.
mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get them to send me a training clip, and this is something that I do all the time now. Send me a training clip, and I'm like, why did you stop? Because it said 12, it said 10 to 12, and I was like, okay, we need to have
A
a chat.
little chat. Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
need to have a chat right here. But that levels, because I always say the thing that changes people's physiques the most is intensity
Yeah,
within training.
yeah.
Literally, they made
It's the
fuck
part
everything
where there's
else
the
off.
struggle. It's the part where there's the struggle. And
Yeah,
there's no struggle until the last 2 or 3 reps.
yeah. You know,
So
and
so if
the
you
rep speed's the same all the way through. I'm like, it needs to
dude,
slow down at some point.
if there's not um some sort of failure occurring where you're having to
Mm,
fight that, then
yeah,
adaptive response is probably not going to be
yeah,
something that even
yeah,
shows its face.
yeah.
Um,
No stimulus required
that's why I
or
always think as well.
produced.
Like I always think it's great if you can have it. If someone can steal someone for a spot or get a training partner for the day,
Yeah.
I really think training goes way further. The most development I
Mm.
ever made in my body was always a time when I had someone with me to help me with a couple of reps.
Yeah, that you
Um,
have that confidence then to just keep going because if
yeah,
you do fail, they're there for you to get one or two
yeah,
more.
yeah.
And those two,
I think training alone, Joe, actually is a limiting factor on people's potential to grow muscle.
especially when you're, the strengths that your weights that we can push,
Yeah.
it becomes almost dangerous to
Well,
a
you
point.
look, for example, if you're in a gym and I know loads of people don't do flat bench no more, but let's say you
Mm.
do, you're not going to be able to unrack it on your own by the time you're lifting the weights you're
Yeah,
lifting. So
yeah.
by then you've already reduced weight because you're like, I can't lift the maximal off
Mm,
myself. So
mm,
therefore your set's going to be less efficient because you're going to be lifting less than you normally can.
mm,
So it's just little things like that. And those percentages over, the course of your entire off season. If that's happening at most of the workouts, how much progress have you actually not obtained that you could have?
mm.
So
So
that's why I
true,
say,
so
like,
true.
man, even if it's someone you just know in the gym, and it's like, do you mind being my spot guy when I'm in the gym? Guys, take it because I promise you, that
Yeah,
last rep that looks shitty where you're really pushing it and they're probably taking nearly 50% of load is still fucking worth doing because
yeah.
that's how you truly train to beyond your own ability and to cause adaptation to happen.
That's literally where that muscular damage happens, which is
Mm,
one of the key drivers of hypertrophy, right?
for
Along with
sure, for
like
sure.
metabolic damage and
And then there's
mechanical
another thing.
tension.
Metabolic damage is obviously something that Patrick's very into. So also have no fear, guys, later on in your workouts, kind of mixing up the rep ranges.
Mm,
There's nothing, failure is failure and intensity is intensity. You can be intense
yeah.
with a 10 kilo dumbbell if you're specifically saying to yourself, okay, I want a 50 rep set.
Mm,
But that's still going to get you to failure, but in a different way. So, obviously if you identify that and you're specifically aiming for that kind of failure and that kind of training, that metabolic approach, do it. Because there's the hypertrophy in the regular way, and then there's the metabolic approach as well. I think the
yeah.
best workouts come from the marriage of the two. And I've always said that.
Yeah. 100%. Like you say, you've got that like they call it like myofibrillar hypertrophy at the start with the
Yeah.
heavy stuff, and then
Yeah.
the sarcoplasmic
Yeah.
hypertrophy at the end with the more sort of higher reps or
Sure.
higher volume stuff. But still, the fundamental key underlining aspect of all of that
Intensity.
is intensity. Exactly.
Intensity and
And
intensity comes from intent. I've always said
mm,
this is like intention is so important because even when I'm training with someone and there's like they're failing on reps, I'm like, as long as you are pushing or pulling with the intent of moving it, even if it moves this fucking much, that intention is causing so much stress that it's still going to cause massive levels of
yeah.
development. So, I'm all for when you're on a hammer chest press that the last few reps are only this long. That's, like don't
Yeah.
modern guys don't be afraid of that kind of rep
That's
range.
when you can get away with your lengthened partials when you can't do
Yes.
fuck all else.
Yeah. That's the best time. That's the only time
Yeah,
that's really needed. A
yeah,
lengthened
yeah,
partial is when you're hitting failure and you can't get a full contraction.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
you can still hold and manage a weight under a certain level of load.
yeah.
So, whether it be
That,
a chest press or T-bar, even with a T-bar, if it's hanging there and you're getting a lot of tension running through your back and you can only get a little bit of a shrug going,
yeah,
There's a lot of muscle still getting fucking worked, even if you do a couple of partials, and it's going to cause a lot of
100%.
thickness. So
It's
training,
very difficult to get that message across efficiently, isn't it? Because someone take what we've just said and just spin it in a completely different way and not utilize that information.
well,
You
let's
know what
just
I mean?
see how many of them are actually professional bodybuilders, though.
Well, that's the thing, isn't
And
it?
that's
Like
the
you
thing.
said,
Listen to the
go on.
fucking professionals. We didn't get it by chance. I promise. Like, that's no
Yeah.
arrogance. It's fact. It's just straight
What
fact.
it's like you said, what you put out on your YouTube is what you do to get where you are. Yet you got people saying, "Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that?" Yet you look like a fucking
Yeah,
no offense, like a 70 kilo ringing wet,
absolutely.
trying to
Dude,
tell you what to do.
it's
It
no
makes no
coincidence
sense.
that Josh Dougal has a back like he does when the fucker's rowing 200 kilo barbell. It's
That
no
shit doesn't lie. That
exactly,
shit
and he's
doesn't
got a
lie.
crazy
Yeah,
back, and then
yeah,
back in the day, I was squatting fucking 7 plates. There's a reason I have a set of
mate,
quads. It's everything.
100%.
Everything has there's evidence behind what people have done, man. Like it's
There is.
there. It's there for you to fucking follow, man. And if form never breaking was super important, then our videos on YouTube wouldn't look like they do. And
Yeah,
our
hundred
physiques
percent.
wouldn't look like they do.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have the views and the following or any of that shit.
No, man. So,
Yeah, mate, I love that.
um, yeah, you know what? It's good to have this chat. So I do love training, and when I talk to someone who
Yeah,
actually genuinely loves it, I spark up and I feel of energy. A lot of times
yeah,
I'm on a podcast and I'm kind of like drooping off a little bit because I
yeah,
don't feel the energy in the room that people really care about training to the level that people like us do. And the
yeah, yeah,
reason I
yeah,
know you care, the reason I know you fucking care again is because I know how long you've been pursuing that goal and how many times you wanted to say fuck this, but you didn't say fuck this because
yeah,
that's love. Love is when you fucking hate something, but you're still married to it.
yeah. And you do it like
Yeah.
you love it. That old Mike
Yeah, yeah,
Tyson
yeah, yeah,
saying.
absolutely, man. So
Yeah,
that's why I enjoy these conversations because these are the passion part of bodybuilding. I just really need people to reignite that. Like if you have a lot of love for it, that's the most important thing. Because someone said to me, I was at the Arnold and I was in I was doing the meet and greet, and obviously there's hundreds of people. It's crazy how many people come by, even though I don't feel
mm.
very popular. It's wild how many. So thank you to everybody.
You certainly are, brother.
Dude, Joe, I had one kid come up to me and went, I just want advice on how to be, the best bodybuilder that I can. And I just asked him, I said, do you love it? And he said, yeah, I really do enjoy my training. I said, you've answered the question. I said, if
Yeah,
you'd come to me and you didn't mention the word love or enjoyment, then I'd say it's not for you because that means you're chasing something for an external validation rather than your own, your own
mm.
reasons. Love and determination are the strongest fucking source of motivation out of
Yeah.
anything. And if you truly have passion for something, passion will take you the whole way. I had a friend that owned restaurants when I used to live in London, and he said, "You know what? The reason I've got successful restaurants is because I'm passionate about food."
Mm. That's
Okay,
powerful,
that's
man.
it. Passionate about
That's
food. So you
powerful.
put passion into the recipe, people will come eat the food. He didn't put passion into his. He wasn't like, I got a passion for making money."
Yeah, he didn't put profit into it.
No, no, and it's the same with bodybuilding. If you train because it's so fucking good for you and it feels great,
Mm.
all the other stuff's a byproduct. Like when I first started training, and probably the same with you, I didn't decide to be a bodybuilder.
Mate, I'm gonna just want to say this.
It happens
It's
because you're putting your energy into this thing, and your body responds in a positive way. And then before you know
and
it, you got enough muscle on your frame to go. You know, I might be a bodybuilder now.
yeah, I love that, man. And the energy that you put into that thing because you love it, eventually, and looking at, like where you are now, where hopefully I'm looking to go,
Pays you
it's
back,
giving
bro.
back. Yeah, it's paying back.
I tell you now, like the amount of conversations I've had with people, and I'm lucky enough that people actually, like I say, at these shows where they come and shake a hand, take a picture,
Mm,
inboxes, things like that. Like I've been so blessed. And
that's
being,
amazing.
and you'll notice the reason you compete sometimes shifts as well. So I always said this, and this is just me being so honest. Like I always used to compete because I actually wanted financial gain, and
Mm,
I say that because I grew up with just my mum, and I wanted my mum to be free of having to struggle financially.
yeah, that's a big why though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. So
That's
I put
not because you want money, because you want money.
no, no, no.
That's a
It was
different.
not for me. I didn't care what I had. It was more
Yeah.
that okay. So I love training, so that's cool. And then the reason I decided to bodybuild is because I was like, I think I can be good enough at this to make a career and then help my mum
Mm,
out. Okay, so
yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
what and then the kind of thing that happened with that is obviously she passed away. Then I found myself in a position where I was like, oh shit, I'm not sure what I'm doing this for, and it lasted a while. Obviously, Luke
Yeah.
passed away as well, and then I was like, shit, I don't really know what I'm doing now. But what I will say is that because of all the people that I can consider friends and fans, I don't know if you ever watched Dragon Ball Z. Did you ever watch Dragon Ball Z?
No, I
Oh
was never
shit!
into it.
There's something
No.
called a spirit bomb. Yeah,
Right.
it's a
Okay.
big move that the main guy does, and all it is that everyone collectively gives him a part of their energy each, a small part, and
Right. Okay. I'm with
that
you. I'm with
energy
you.
turns into a fucking ball like this, and it can defeat anything. So
Right.
what I'm trying
Wow.
to say is that although no one will ever replace these people that are important to say me, or be the same reason they were, collectively speaking, that small bit of faith and trust and love that comes from all these individuals, it generates something so large that it almost outweighs what your original reason was, and it becomes
Wow.
such a reason that you feel enlightened to be in a position that it has an effect on so many people in a positive way that you're like, you know what, I'm competing for you all now because
Man,
you've
that's
given me,
powerful.
yeah, you've given me something that's, it sounds weird, but at dark times when you're like, you know what, I've been in positions sometimes because of anabolics and stuff where I'm like, I don't even know if I want to live. Like, and I won't lie,
Really.
like I've had these moments, but then I think about all these people, and when I think about all these people and not wanting to let them down and that they're great to me, it soon turns
You
things around
you realize that you now have a new purpose
for sure.
to not to serve, but to provide your energy back to
Yeah,
them into the universe.
and just as basic as look how fucking lucky I am
Mm.
because they don't have to support me. There's
Well,
there's 100 bodybuilders out there that are cool. These guys are in my queue and they want to talk to me. So
that's fucking
fucking show up,
mate,
man, and just do your best.
mate.
You know,
Wow, that's really really powerful. What you just said, man.
uh,
I think like especially with the real life examples that you just gave with the losses that you've been through that with people that were so close to you like your mum
sure.
and Luke who were obviously pivotal people within your lives but then how you worked through that and found purpose via the bodybuilding industry and bodybuilding as a whole
Yeah. Well,
that's
they were
allowed
there.
you to give back.
They were there without knowing it. They were there to pick me up when I was down.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
because they didn't maybe they didn't intend for that, but some of them did intend for that. Some of them message and say that. But
Mm.
even if they didn't intend for that, it's still it had that effect, and that effect is such a positive one. That how can someone like me not be grateful? And that's why I'm not done yet because I'm like to the people that
Fucking
support me,
right,
man, I got more to show you because I want you to be
bro.
I want you to be super impressed before I'm done.
Mate, honestly, I've always been such a big fan of yourself as a person and as a bodybuilder. I've always wanted you, rooted for you to do well at shows. But like, I would, you ain't done yet, bro. Like, you ain't done yet. I just love seeing you do your thing,
Thank you.
and like, I mean that like as a fan, mate. Like as a friend, as a fan. Like I love watching you do your shit, because you do it at such a level with just a level of professionalism and humor and just clarity, and also like as I said at the start, vulnerability that is so relatable because everybody's been through their own shit and it might be different to yours, but we can relate in some way
Sure.
along the journey. And it gives you, it certainly has for me, inspiration and things to call on when I'm finding things hard because people like yourself and other people that I follow have gone through their own journeys. So I need to be strong for myself that I can do that and take
For sure.
inspiration from that. So yeah,
Also another really important thing about people, us included, is that if be open to anyone else that finds themselves in a position of struggle.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if a fellow friend finds themselves in a position, the best thing that anyone can do is be an ear, even if they don't need to say a word back, but just to listen,
Mm,
because ultimately that's the most important thing that we are as people. Um,
human
and
beings.
if we all did more of that, a lot more people would make it through. So I think being patient with people and being reaching out to people in them times of feeling whatnot, because we get
Mm,
desensitized to it. Because how often now do you see on people's Instagram stories they're having a bad day, and you see that 60 times over.
yeah,
By the end of that, you're like, you know what? I don't. You become almost uncaring of how anyone
yeah, yeah,
feels
yeah.
because you're just like.
100%.
But if
That's
there's
social media, isn't it?
yeah. So again, another thing I would suggest. Again, this is just a small suggestion. Is just try to put out good positive things, but try not to
Mm.
absorb too much. Try
That's something
to
I've
yeah,
worked on a lot. I actually have got this thing. It's called a brick, and if I tap my phone against it, it blocks all the apps on my phone,
that's
and
awesome.
I keep the brick in the kitchen on the fridge. So I
You
go
don't
tap
find
it in the
yourself,
morning,
yeah.
and come sit in here, and then I will pick my phone up, and be like, oh, I can't go on anything, so I
Yeah.
put it back down. Because otherwise, you know, it's scrolling, doom scrolling, and it's just
Doom scrolling comparison.
deeper joy.
Yeah, and then ultimately it always seems to turn to thinking about the things you don't have when you should be focusing on what you do have.
Mm,
And you
yeah.
have a lot, and we all have a lot. You know, look, we're sitting in a room with technology and talking to friends from afar. You know, roof overhead, warm.
Mm,
You've got your pro card. You know, we've got a lot. We've got a lot, and just appreciate that we've got a lot. And I'm not perfect. I'm still trying to teach myself to be better at understanding that things are
mm.
good. But again, coming on things like this and having a good chat with good people is always a positive and steers you in the right direction. So, you know, hopefully anyone that's listened like today and whatnot takes something positive from this and uses it going forward. And you know, if they are struggling, then reach out. Like, don't
Mate,
feel like you can't.
very true, mate. I appreciate that, and I think you know, we've gone pretty deep there, and I appreciate you, you know, opening up and
Sure.
speaking like that, man. And I think whilst we've gone pretty deep, and hopefully, guys took, like you say, some positives from that, I want to end us on a high. Um, if you can give us one piece of lifestyle, or sorry, one piece of life or bodybuilding kind of uh, advice to become, you know, or take a step in the right direction, what kind of thing would that be?
I think ultimately it's the same. What applies in bodybuilding applies in life, and it's just such a simple thing. It's that old saying of if it doesn't give you positivity, then you don't need it in your life, and that goes for a job. It goes for people. It goes for habits. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you spend your time in a position, a place, or with people that don't feed your energy in the right manner, then you're wasting life because life is just time. And
Mm,
for you to go as far as you can or do as well as you can, you can't waste time because it takes time to get good at things. So if you're spending time on the wrong things, you're losing time being able to put it into the things that make you better. And I think that's
wow, yeah,
probably it, really.
mate, that's perfectly put, mate. Like you said, almost like people need to be quicker to make decisions to move on from things, whether that's, like you say, relationship, a bad job, whatever it is.
For
But
sure.
that's really good life advice, man. And I think especially for younger people who are, you know, they may feel like they're in a relationship that they can't leave, or I can't lose this job, or otherwise I'm going, my whole life's gonna, trust me, you're
For
gonna
sure.
be fine. You're gonna be fine, bro.
You
You're
are.
gonna be good.
You know, with that, Joe, it's, you know, try not to don't have regret
Yeah.
because by the time you've made a decision, the decision's made and ultimately if you regret, then you look back too much. And if you look back, you know, it's that whole you don't move forward. So
Mm,
same shit, man. Just like when you make a decision, know that it was in good stead and that you did calculate
mm,
it and it was the right decision because your gut is strong and your intentions and your intuition
mm,
strong. And even if after it feels a bit weird, that's just a repercussion of just change. That's not it's not because it was the wrong decision. It's just because the human mind likes to contemplate things that it's done in the past to try to figure out where it's heading. So just don't let it draw you back too much. You know, the decision's
yeah.
made, it's final, it's cool to move forward. Obviously, there's rare circumstances where that may not be the case, but majority of the time when it's kind of small fry stuff, don't let it anchor you down, man.
Own it.
Yeah.
Own it and move on. Yeah.
Own it and move on,
I
man.
love that.
If you said something about someone on the internet who's been a prick and then you feel bad, no, they probably were a prick.
Yeah. Yeah. Back yourself. Own
Yeah,
it and
just be
move
like, no,
on.
you know
Yeah.
what? They were a knob at the time, and I'm not going to take
I
that
love
back.
that. I
Yeah.
love that.
So
Mate, on that note, I think we'll finish up there. But bro,
cheers,
honestly,
Joe.
for episode number one, that was a banger, and I think there's so much to take away from that. You know, insights into everything. You know, not just bodybuilding, went quite a bit deeper than I even thought, which was, you know, a pleasure. And I really do appreciate you coming on and
No,
giving us
thank
your
you for
time, mate.
asking me. It's an honor to come on and be on number one. Thank you.
Number
Honestly,
one, bro. The
thank you.
shed, number one. I saw
Appreciate that,
when you
brother.
were signing in, it said the shed signing in. I was like, love
Yeah, I got the shed
that.
on it. The
Epic,
shed.
man.
Thanks,
Well,
Joe.
cheers, guys. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
guys.
take
And
care,
we'll
everybody.
see you next week. Peace out.